Greetings, brothers. Give me 1 second. My camera is being funny. Usually when this happens, I do the very technological thing of switching it off and on again. And there we go. Yes, because that's how tech works. Have you tried switching it on and off again? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. Thanks for hanging out today. We're obviously going to get into some army lists here in a minute. And hey, Jamie, Jar Miniature, Steel Rain, Kayri, Camille, Maverick, good afternoon. Appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully we'll learn some things and we'll look at 4 Blood Angels army lists. So, lists we have for today are James Fisher, Jar Miniatures, Sellers Bergener, I think, and Matt Stalker. And we're going to be starting with James Fisher's list here in just 1 second. Let me put that up on the stream. I'm also going to quickly tell you how to submit a list if you'd like to do that for a future show, because and I think at the moment queue times for non-members is about 10 weeks. Excuse me. And queue times for members is about 3 or 4 weeks. So, hey Living Ghost, hey Adam, hey Kudos. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Nice to see you, nice to have you here. So, yes, if you want to submit a list, what you need to do is open up YouTube, go to the Blood Angels Commander channel, click on the community tab, and then in this most recent community post, post your list in as a comment, just like your export from Battlescribe or the GW app, and just say it's for the army list show, and I will pick it up from there. Okay. Any other Blood Angels news that has happened this week? Not really. We did the video on Death Guard, obviously, and there was the new Black Templar release is just coming out. So, hey Robert. And I guess we were talking a lot on stream last night if we think that the new Black Templar release may mean at some point we get new Blood Angels, but I think we are just waiting. And I think that a few people were interested to get more details on the army list that did really well at the Orlando Grand Tournament. So I'm trying to arrange an interview to make that happen, so we can dive into that list a little bit more. That was a very jump pack based list. Hey Michael, got random recommendation for Blood Angels Successor chapters. I like Blood Angels, but I've painted enough red in my World Eaters and I need to try something new. Alright, somebody jump in and give him some information on Successors that maybe aren't super red. Flesh Tears are red and black, I guess. Good afternoon, Nathan. Okay, so Lamenters could definitely be an option if you like drawing, or if you like painting white and black squares on their shoulder pads. I think you'd probably have to be at a pretty high level of skill to make a Lamenter's army look pretty nice. Yellow is difficult to paint as well. It's a bit like white. You need to paint a bunch of coats of it to make it really stand out. So, okay, let's get right into the first army list for today, and that is a members list, and it is by James Fisher. Right. And maybe it's going to be a little bit different from what we have done before. Angels and Carmite are cool because they have white Death Company and Sangri Guard, and their standard colour is red and black. I've seen some white Sangria Guard, and they're pretty interesting as well. But then, yeah, you're making it difficult on yourself, because white and also yellow and Lamenters is very difficult to paint. So, hey John, just received some Hellblaster. I've been trying a new style without dreads. I've only gotten to try this against Admech and Sisters, and it wrecks pretty good vs low toughness troops and vehicles, but not sure how it would go against Dark Angels or Death Guard. Chaplain sits with Hellblasters and Eradicators and buffs, whichever has the better shot, and the other choice will advance into position for turn 2. Librarian Fortress over Gunline until he can null zone and jump forward. Intercessors sit back. I've tried Stalkers and Auto Bolt Rifles, pretty indifferent on them. Blade Guard and Judiciar to move to the centre. The Priest gives Feel No Pain to the Assault Intercessors while staying close to Blade Guard to res if needed. The Assault Intercessors have absorbed a lot of firepower with Transhuman and a 6 plus Feel No Pain. I assume he means Oh no, Assault Intercessors, I guess, have a 6+ feel no pain with the Priest, yeah. I don't typically transhuman Assault Intercessors, but it's an interesting thing. Hey Martin, how you doing? And, okay. So this looks like it's 2 patrols, and starting with 6 CP. Okay, so we've got a Chaplain with Catechism of Fire, Recantation of Focus, Bolt Pistol, Chapter Command, Master of Sanctity. Okay, so this is a Firstborn Chaplain with no jump pack. He's definitely... I guess this Chaplain's going to sit with his shooting line. And I don't run these litanies, so I just need to double confirm what they are. But Recitation of Focus is... Select 1 core character unit within 6 of the Priest each time this model makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. And the other one, Catechism of Fire, each time this model makes a ranged attack to the closest enemy target, add 1 to the wound roll. Okay, so 2 ways to buff shooting with a Chaplain, but he doesn't have the Wise Orator trait, which is sad, because I feel like if you're going to do that, you really want your litanies to go off on 2s. He's paid the extra points to make him a Master of Sanctity, so it's just about having the 1 CP to cast the 1 CP to give him the Wise Orator Warlord trait. So that's a question mark. I feel like 2 litanies on 2s is so much stronger than 1 litany on 3s. We then have a Librarian with Null Zone and Psychic Fortress, and he is the Chief Librarian, and he has a jump pack. Again, like Psychic Null Zone is a hard cast. It's a cast of 7, so you kind of want Psychic Mastery, and to get that, you need to again make him Hero of the Chapter. I think Null Zone with a reroll is a 75% chance to cast. If you have Psychic Master, it's a 92% chance to cast. Obviously, factoring in the reroll. So both these characters would benefit a lot from a Hero of the Chapter. Anyway, let's move on. We have then 1 squad of Intercessors, the auto bolt rifles, which was fine. Yeah, and I mean, you just generally want mastery anyway for other casts as well, right? We then have 5 Blade Guard and the Judiciar, and the Judiciar has Rights of War, and he is the Hero of the Chapter. So that I guess your Blade Guard potentially get OBSEC. We then have 3 Eradicators of Melt Rifles, 5 Hellblasters with Assault Plasmas, and the Assault Plasmas are probably the most attractive thing on the Hellblasters, in that they get 3 shots per model, and they're Strength 7 on low power? Or maybe it's Strength 7 on high power. Let me just double check the Hellblasters. I think it's Strength 6 and Strength 7 on high power. I'll pull it up and put it on camera. Yep. Oh, wrong one. Assault Plasmas, Assault 3, Strength 6 -4 1 damage, or Strength 7 -4 1 damage. So, yeah, against Toughness 8 armor, they're actually really not that effective at all, but I guess you've got Eradicators in there as well, so maybe that's sort of a little bit of a moot point. So, the Chaplain is hanging out with both these squads to buff their shooting, but I feel like both the shooting buffs are decent. Yeah, it's a tough one. Rights of War isn't my preferred choice on a Judiciar. I think that probably Selfless Valor is a better choice if you're moving around, and you want to get the heroic interventions and make sure that the enemy fight last. If you have 5 Blade Guard and a Judiciar sitting on an objective and it's getting obsec'd away from you, then I guess either you didn't place your models correctly, or the enemy just have way too much stuff on that. Because I feel like 5 Blade Guard is like 21 attacks more, actually. Sergeant gets like 6 and the others get 5. Yeah, 5 Blade Guard is 26 attacks with basically the same weapon as a Sangria Guard, right? Like -3 swords with 2 damage each. So I mean, what's surviving against 5 Blade Guard and a Judasar in the center of the board makes me feel like Rites of War. Like, sure, things can survive against that, but typically OBSEC things are not going to survive against that. Adam says, I like the Chaplain boosting shooting. It's not our strength, so this is a good support play, but Wise Orator is very important. Yeah, I agree with that. We then have a Captain on a Bike who has a Gift of Foresight, Artisan of War, Adamantium Mantle, Infernal Pistol, and a Teeth of Terra, and he is a Warlord. So sort of a very fighty captain here. Adamantium Mantle, Teeth of Terra, Gift of Foresight. Yeah, so a captain with a very good amount of attacks, I guess. Like 7 attacks base, potentially up to 9 attacks. Rerolling 1 hit, 1 wound, 1 save every turn. 5+ feel no pain. Obviously a 3+4+ invulnerable save. We then have the Sangery Priest, who is upgraded to Selfless Healer and Chief Apothecary for 155 points. I've kind of moved away from him. I think he's very expensive. I think you can get value out of him. And I guess if you've got him with your Assault Intercessors, there's a squad of 10. If you're transhuming them, you can probably... yeah, of course, can Jar Miniatures, thanks for pointing that out. You can probably get some value here. But yeah, I've moved a little bit away from the Sangery Priest. The main reason I've been keeping my Sangery Priest for 90 points with no jump pack and no Selfless Healer is to get that turn 1 and turn 2 Blood Chalice ability, which is arguably something that's really strong with him. So if you're going to save the 65 points like I do, I mean, like, you need to resurrect 2 models, or you need to resurrect 2 Blade Guards to get those 65 points and a CP. So I guess the question is, and bear in mind, right, if he's not Selfless Healer and he doesn't have a jump pack, you can still revive, it just costs you 1 CP. So if you're desperate to do a revive, you can still do it. I don't know, I think I like the Sangery Priest more now, either for 90 points or 120 points. I think at 155 plus the CP is really pushing it. One of the advantages of getting that Chief Apothecary upgrade is that you can heal 2 models per turn for 3 wounds. Now, typically, I don't feel like I'm very rarely, if ever, get value out of that. Like, maybe sometimes a character in a squad has taken damage, but like for the most part, the priest is hanging out with 1 squad, and that's the squad that's taking damage. So you're really just healing. You're really using your combat what's the word? Combat restoratives to heal D3 as opposed to flat 3. And D3 usually averages a 2, right? So it's 35 points to get 1 more heal wound. It's a tough one. I switched my jump Sangery Priest for a Primaris Apothecary and Foot with Selfless Healer to keep up my Blade Guard and Centurions. Yeah, if you're running in with Blade Guard Veterans, you almost want to take Corbolo instead. Yeah, the only disadvantage to Corbolo is that you cannot choose targets for the Blood Chalice like you can with the Sangery Priest, right? Corbolo is an aura, and in some ways that aura can actually be annoying, Corbolo's aura, because like any of your units that get trapped in the aura are also going to be an Assault Doctrine. So if you had like a shooting unit that's just 1 inch too close to Corbolo, then you're going to lose your Devastator Doctrine or your Tactical Doctrine, because Corbolo is going to override them and move them into Assault Doctrine. Where is Corbolo's data sheet? Just so we can go over that. That's why I don't like Corbolo, I guess. I mean, he's kind of okay points wise, but, and I guess like, yeah, if you're not running a jump pack, it would be nice to take him. But the problem is that this is an aura. So while units within 6 inches of the movement, 6 inches of the model, Tactical and Devastator are active. Assault Doctrine is considered to be active instead. He's 115 points, so I guess... yeah, I mean, he gets to use the combat restoratives twice. He gets to make sure that Oh, he doesn't actually do the flat 3. He still does D3. Okay. Yeah, it's just annoying that his aura... yeah, I guess it's annoying it's an aura and not a single target ability, right? What's the stratagem called again for what Charles? Use this model, select one Sangery Priest. Corbolo doesn't have the keyword Sangery Priest, does he? No. He's got the Chief Apothecary keyword, but he doesn't have the Sangery Priest keyword. So he can't even do he can't use the Blood Chalice, which is pretty annoying, I guess. I feel like he should be able to use the Blood Chalice, but he's not. 10 Assault Intercessors, and 10 Assault Intercessors is kind of nice in terms of like they can fight twice, but they are slow and they are foot slogging, and I mean, you'd have to res like 3 or 4 of them to get the points back. You'd have to res 4 of them actually to get the points back you spend here on the Chief Apothecary, so it's a little bit questionable, I think. We then have 2 squads of Sangri Guard, an 8 and a 7, axes and swords in each of them, ever so slightly leaning towards the axes, which is nice. And then the whirlwind. And yeah, like basically we've got 2 ways to make the enemy fight last: the whirlwind and the Judiciar. And I don't feel like you need to. I feel like you choose one of the 2. And this list has actually got 5 characters as well with the Judiciar, so I guess 5 characters kind of opens up an assassinate pick for the enemy against you. Been running a baseline apothecary lately, no chalice, but 75 point healer works for me. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I'm running just the default Sangery Priest. A 90 point healer works for me, I guess. I suppose the aura means you could benefit both the Vanguard Veterans and the Judiciar. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Put the Assault Intercessors into strategic reserves. That improves the mobility of this list a lot. Yeah, it's annoying that they come in at 10 power level. So I guess like you'd want something else that was like, because you've got like 7 more power level there 9 more power level you could put into reserve there. I suppose you could put like Eradicators or something into reserve and make sure that when they come in they get a good line of sight on what they're firing. How about 2 foot squads of Death Company and Rhinos? With Corbolo and a Death Company character charging up the board turn 1 could be nasty. Yeah, I mean, it's such a niche. It feels like such a weird pick to try and... It feels like you're really grasping at straws to make Corbolo work. I think that Corbolo just needs to be improved or changed. Probably improved. Does aura affect everybody, or is it core and character? No, it's core and characters as well, yeah, so it's even a little bit worse than I thought. Okay, let's think about this. We've got 5 characters, so that's kind of a little bit annoying. We have 1 squad of Intercessors and 1 10-man squad of Assault Intercessors. We have 5 Vanguard Veterans and Judiciar. We have Eradicators and Hellblasters as their shooting support, who are hanging out with the Chaplain. We have our Sangery Priest. We have our 2 squads of Sangri Guard, and then we have the Whirlwind as well. Okay. And our command points are spent on the strategic selfless healer for the priest, the Angel's Exemplar for our captain, who is our warlord, Rights of War and the Judiciar, which I think is probably the wrong choice. That's 3, so there must be 1 other. Oh, the priest is the captain is the terror as well. So that's your 4 CP. So you're starting with 6. Okay. Hey Evan, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, so 5 characters I don't like. I ran a list with 5 characters once or twice maybe, and just got instantly assassinated picked against me. Makes it very easy for the opponents to think of one. You know, it if you run against an opponent that has 5 characters, for the most part, you're just going to instantly pick Assassinate. Like, just because, you don't even have to complete all of it, and you can get like 12 or 13 points, or 10 or 11 points fairly easy, I guess. Eradicators and Hellblasters as fire support with a chaplain. Like if you break that down, that's more points than my 2 Redemptors. 2 Redemptors are like 360 points. This is like, 300, 400, 405 points. So 45 more points than the Redemptors. You're also risking the fact that the plasmas will kill themselves a little bit. I mean, when you roll a 1 on a Redemptor shooting its plasma cannon, it's not a big deal, because obviously it's got 13 wounds, so it can afford to take a mortal wound very easily. These Hellblasters are going to struggle to fire on high power reliably. The only thing you've got that's going to give you reroll 1s here is this Captain, and this Captain is geared up to being like a close combat character, and he's the Warlord, so you're going to need him forward next to the Sangery Priest. So I've thought about this. I mean, I have Eradicators and I have 10 Hellblasters, and they're all painted, so I could field them tomorrow. I just don't think that they provide as much value as a couple of Redemptors, I guess. Yeah, I mean, like, if you had a couple of Redemptors, I suppose when you add in the fact that you could give some of them a little bit of a bonus from the chaplain, but again, it's not a reliable bonus, right? Because your chaplain doesn't have Wiserator, so you can only get these litanies off on 3s. Hey, Island Phoenix, how you doing? So you've got Eradicators and Hellblasters that can get a little bit of a bonus from this chaplain, but it's only going to be on like 2 or 3 turns of the game, because it's only a 66% chance that it goes off. I think I'd rather just take 2 Redemptors. 2 Redemptors on average is going to get about 7 shots with the plasma cannon against 6 multi-melta shots from the Eradicators, plus the Redemptors have more range. So what little damage they do less, you probably make up for being able to shoot in a turn where the Eradicators can't shoot because they're not in range. The Hellblasters, you're not going to be able to fire them effectively really on high power, so I guess they're going to kill some Marines and stuff. Hellblaster, while you take a damages, Captain runs off and you still get Captain rerolls. I'm not sure what you mean. A Damocles. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I've liked Hellblasters for a while, right? And like, I thought that at some point you could have like a couple of Redemptors with like a Psyker in there casting Psychic Fortress, and a Chapter Master, and a couple of a large squad of Hellblasters, let's say 10 of them, and a Captain and a Priest, and you could have them all together, and it would be sort of like a death bubble. But like, I just don't know if I think it's that effective. Like, I think that Hellblasters are still really expensive, like 35 points per model. They're just a 2-wound Marine. And like, I guess their gun is very good against stuff that doesn't have invulnerable saves here. Because it's -4, but against invulnerable save stuff, it probably all gets pushed onto its invulnerable save anyway. So yeah, I guess the jury's out. A Chaplain with Eradicators and Hellblasters against a couple of Redemptors. I think I take the Redemptors because that actually leaves me like 40 points extra. I remove 1. I make it more difficult for the enemies to assassinate. High volume of fires v sisters where you don't need to overcharge. Yeah. But they will die so fast. As I say, they're just Marines on a 3-up save. And at 35 points a model, that is a lot to spend. they're almost double the price of an Assault Intercessor, right? They're 19 points per model, and they have the exact same survivability. Or no, it's not 35 points, it's 33, but still, even at 33, I think it's a lot of points for a 2-wound Marine. And they're not really that mobile either. Yeah, I got 10 Hellblasters when Dark Imperium came out, and I just don't feel them. I think they're decent, but maybe they're not the greatest for Blood Angels. Yeah, I mean, you could put an Impulsor and have 5 Hellblasters in it and move it forward, and the Hellblasters and the have a captain. Like, if you had a captain and 5 Hellblasters and an Impulsor, so you can move forward, you can disembark, you can shoot everything, you can reroll ones. Maybe I think that's okay, but I think just Hellblasters on the table. And again, they're only going to be 24-inch range, right? Assault Hellblasters don't have the longest range. So you're gonna struggle a little bit, I think. Like, turn 1, you're probably not gonna have the range on the Hellblasters or the Eradicators, and at that point, then like if you're telling me that the cheaper option here was a couple of Redemptors, and if the Redemptors get a whole extra turn of shooting, I think any advantage that the Hellblasters would have had would be lost because the Redemptors get an extra turn of shooting. Hellblasters and Eradicators, I guess, and then the Redemptor's obviously going to survive a lot better here. And yeah, I think I'm curious where we put Hellblasters in the tier list. I'm gonna check. So when I made the tier list with Tony and Mark, we would have put Hellblasters somewhere. Let's see where we put them. I'm going to share these tier lists with you guys when the series is finished. We put Hellblasters all the way down in C tier. We said that they're kind of crap. We put them after Devastator Squads, after Land Raiders, after Thunderfire Cannons, and Thunderfire Cannons really aren't good, after Vindicators, and they're so swingy as well. Yeah, so Hellblasters, I just don't think they're on a par with those new Gladiator tanks, and like no one's really running those new Gladiator tanks, right? What do you think about Sangery Priest plus 2 squads of 5 Blade Guard? I mean, Blade Guard are fine. Why 2 squads though? Like, I mean, the Blade Guard are slow, so like I have 1 Sangery Priest and 1 squad of Blade Guard, and they move centerboard. I don't know what you would do with 10 Blade Guard. It's a lot of points to invest to just. You're probably not going to be able to keep both of them with the Priest, right? Okay, so Captain, the Priest. Let's do a little bit of scoring then, and let me think about some of this. OBSEC, then we have 2 troop units, so that's a 7.5, and we have Rights of War in there, so we're going to say something like 8.5 for OBSEC. We obviously have the Rights of War bubble of OBSEC around the GDCR, but I think that Selfless Valor is a better pick here. Anti-Horde Infantry Effectiveness. We've got Sangri Guard Bolters. We've got a Whirlwind. I mean, maybe you could shoot some of the Hordes with your Hellblasters, but you don't really want to be. And maybe you could shoot some of them with your Autobolt Rifle and set Intercessors. Anti-Horde feels pretty light. I was going to say, is it like a 7 or is it an 8? I think it's like a. Let's go with 7.5. It's not. It doesn't have a lot of anti-horde firepower. It has a little. I guess you are going to get 30 shots from the Sangria Guard. I guess 10 bolter shots here, another 15 bolter shots. So like that's what, 55 bolter shots. Then Hellblasters maybe. I usually try and think of shooting mainly for anti-horde jar miniatures, because, and yeah, you're right, like the Assault Intercessors are kind of an anti-horde unit, and in this list they're probably going to go after some hordes. I guess the question though is, if you do not have enough shooting to kill enemy horde units, do you end up having to kill hordes with like Sangri Guard or something like that? And like, does that bog you down? Does that lose you key turns? So there's a, I should probably put a comment here like this. There's a big emphasis on shooting. On this column, right? Because like I want to be able to shoot out any horde models so that I don't have to charge them with my more important models. I mean, we can charge horde units with all of our close combat stuff and kill them, but like, we probably don't want to be wasting Sangri Guard's time killing, let's say, Chaos Cultists or something, right? So like, if they've got a lot of horde units, there's something to consider. Maybe it's an 8 here then. I mean, he does have a whirlwind as well. We kind of didn't count that. And yeah, let's go for an 8. But there definitely is an emphasis on shooting for this column, because like, if we have to engage all the horde models in close combat, then that could end up being a bad day, right? Okay, anti-monster infantry. We've got the Sangri Guard. We've got this captain. I guess, do you know what? The captain's kind of anti-horde as well with the Teeth of Terra. So maybe this should, do you know what? We'll go for 8.5 on horde. But Eradicators and Hellblasters, sort of anti-armor. Null Zone is pretty good as well. But in terms of 3 damage weapons here, this list really lacks 3 damage weapons. You've got the Eradicators and you've got an Infernal Pistol. I think that's it. So you've got 7 3 damage weapons on the whole list, which is quite light, or 3 damage or above. So against Death Guard, you've got the Force Axe on. You've got 8 then. But against Death Guard or Custodes with a lot of -1 damage things, you're going to have a very tough day. And yeah, I'm just not too sure about the Eradicators and Hellblasters. I prefer attack bikes to Eradicators. It's the mobility that I prefer. I think the mobility is just generally a lot better. And then Hellblasters be rated kind of lower. And they aren't really particularly good against taking out high toughness armor anyway, right? Because they're only toughness 7 on high power. So I think like a 7.5 anti-monster here. Mobility wise, Sangria Guard are mobile, Assault Intercessors aren't. Both these characters are. Eradicators, Hellblasters, and the Chaplain aren't, but they don't really want to be. Blade Guard and Judas are probably moving center board. These Intercessors are probably holding an objective. So mobility is probably like a 7.5, maybe even a 7. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units without a jump pack. Maybe 7's harsh, like 7.5. And then specialization. So the list has 2 ways to make the enemy fight last. It also has 2 denies, because you do have a Chief Librarian. You do have 2 units for actions. Potentially, it's a little sucky that neither of your units are Phobos units. If one of them was Phobos units, if this was like Incursors, I would like it a lot more, just because of the ability to redeploy around the map with guerrilla tactics. So it's annoying that, we don't have those Incursors. And then we do have a sort of lack of 3 damage weapons. So scoring some secondaries might be quite difficult. Fighting certain armies may also be quite difficult due to lack of 3 damage or above weapons. And then the Hellblaster and the Eradicators and the Chaplain together, they seem like a sort of niche pick, right? Like, no one's really running Eradicators plus Hellblasters plus a Chaplain together. And especially because the chapter isn't the Master of Sanctity. So I'm gonna give that a 7.5. I personally just don't like it. I think that I think one way to do it would just be to imagine if you had 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts and they were going to fight 3 Eradicators and a bunch of Hellblasters. Like, who's going to win that fight? If the Redemptors go first, they're probably going to kill everything, right? Like, both high power plasmas into the Eradicators and all the other guns into the Hellblasters. You're probably gonna kill both squads or heavily wound both squads. Bear in mind that each shot from the high power plasma is going to vaporize Eradicator, and the Eradicator is going to get no save. On the other hand, Eradicators against the Dreadnought, well, 3 of them probably. I can do the math probably in my head. So 3 Eradicators gives you 6 shots. You're hitting on 3s. You're wounding on 3s. There's no save, right? And then you're -1 damage, so times 2.5. Yeah, so the Eradicators on average only do a few damage against the Redemptor. And the Hellblasters are going to do nothing because on high power they're only strength 7 and they're -1 damage again. So let's just do it. So it would be 15 Hellblaster shots, which actually gives you 10 hits. So 10 hits wounding on 4s would give you like 5 wounds. So I think if 2 Redemptors shoot at that, they probably wipe it completely. On the other way, if they shoot back, they probably like take one of the Redemptors down to middle bracket. So like just thinking about it like that makes me wonder what you're seeing in the maybe for other factions, Eradicators, and bear in mind the Dreadnoughts can outrange the Eradicators and the Hellblasters as well by about 12 inches. And they've got more mobility as well. Would be good if Hellblasters were 30 points each. Their damage output is very high. The list needs some other target priority threats to draw fire, or somehow you play hide and seek with the Hellblasters. Yeah, the Hellblasters just die, I guess. So it's an interesting list, James, and like sometimes it's good to try things that aren't meta. You know, like yeah, I mean, it is good to try things that aren't meta, but like sometimes I guess the reason that things are meta is that they're just that good, right? So like, imagine if both Redemptors shot their high power plasmas at the Eradicators. That gives you 7 shots, hitting on 3s, you get 4.6, wounding on 3s, you get 3 exactly. Yeah, so if the 2 Redemptors roll average dice and shoot the Eradicators, just a high power plasma, they kill the whole squad. And then they would have like 16 shots on the onslaught cannons against the other guys. Again, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, -1. So the onslaught cannon does 3.5 damage, and then I guess you've got Stormbolters, so they probably average. So you don't quite kill everything. If you have rocket pods, you probably can get close to killing everything. But if you don't have rocket pods, you probably kill the Eradicators and you kill like 3 or 4 of the 5 Hellblasters. So you're left with 1 Hellblaster if the Eradicators go first, and if the Redemptors go first, and the other way round. Yeah, I guess it's nice to try things, but like this is probably why you see tournament-winning lists including Redemptors and Contemptors, right? They're very, very good for the points costs. It's very hard to argue with that. If you have Redemptors or Contemptors, swap these out with the Chaplain for them. You'll make it harder for your opponent because they won't have a guaranteed 15 points from Assassinate against you, and Contemptors and Redemptors will just do more damage. Hello, Matt. I have a new house, so I can finally watch the Army List show. Welcome back, Mac. It's nice to have you back. I actually just sold my house. So I've got to be out in like 2 months, so I guess I will have the fun of moving. There might be no Army List show that week. But yeah. So he started his sentence by saying, "I've been trying a new style without dreads. I think it has, yeah. I just don't think it's as effective as Dreadnoughts, and I mean that'll be, like I said, that'll be why the meta is the way the meta is. Dreadnoughts are in a very, very strong position. Okay, let's move on to list number 2, and hopefully it's good to try stuff. James, don't get me wrong, it's sometimes the meta can feel stale and you just might not want to do what everybody else is doing, but I guess it's hard to. Sometimes it's just hard to move away from it. Okay, cool. Let's move on to Jar Miniatures list. And Jar, thank you for being in the chat today. It's nice to have the people whose lists we're doing in the chat. Okay, so this is a patrol and a Vanguard. Alright, so similar to what I'm running. And we have 2 Relics of the Chapter, -2 CP, and we're starting with 5 CP, which is as low as I recommend going. I kind of recommend you never start with lower than 5 CP. Cool. Alright, so we have a Librarian, Chief Librarian, Null Zone, Soul Warden, Psychic Fortress, Artificer Armor, Bolt Pistol, Force Sword, Jump Pack, Psychic Mastery, and he is the Warlord and Angel's Exemplar. Alright, there's a lot on him. So he's got Soul Warden and Artificer Armor and Psychic Mastery. Okay. We need to come back to this Artificer Armor and see if your list doesn't include Armor Indomitus, I would 100% swap out Artificer Armor for that. And there's a couple of reasons for it. But I'll just search. And do you include Indomitus? No, you don't. Okay, so change Artificer Armor for Armor Indomitus. And yeah, the couple of reasons are, you've got Null Zone on that character, right? So there's probably a very good chance at some point you are going to use Null Zone. Can you do that though? Hold on. What have you... Yeah, you can do that. Because Angel's Exemplar is giving you what? The Soul Warden trait, yeah? Okay, so the reason to take Armor Indomitus is you have... you have Null Zone. So when you turn on Null Zone, you're going to turn off the 5++ invulnerable save component of Artificer Armor, right? So why not just give him an extra wound, which is what the Armor Indomitus does, and you still get the 2+ save, right? And then you get the 1 phase of the 3+ invulnerable save. And remember, this is something I didn't realize with the 3+ invulnerable save you get from this. Read this bit. It says, before making a saving throw for the bearer, it can activate the armor force field. If it does, then until the end of the phase, blah, blah, blah. But what that means is you wait until the enemy has rolled all their hits, all their wounds, etc., and then you decide. It's not like Smokescreen or something else, or Transhuman, where you need to decide before you've been shot. You wait until the enemy's done all their shooting, done all their wound rolls, and then you know, alright, I need to make 5 saves. Because if I say to you, make 5+5, if you need to make 5 invulnerable saves on a 5+, you've got no chance. Whereas this way you wait till it all comes through and then go like, yeah, I need to make these saves. Let's do my 3+. So the +1 wound is also going to help you when Null Zone is on, right? Whereas like that could be the difference between you living and not living because you have that 1 extra wound. He's got a jump pack, and I assume that you've got a bunch of jump units, yes. So arguably he's never going to get shot, so he's only ever going to be able to be targeted in close combat. And if he is targeted in close combat by some big nasty, a 5+ invulnerable save isn't going to help you at all, I would guess. I mean, I did actually play against Andrew where I had to make 6 5+ saves for my Librarian and made them all, but like, it doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. I think Armor Indomitus is really good. I like it a lot. And yeah, I just think it's always going to give you more value. You know, like if you get through the first couple of turns and if you've never been targeted by shooting, the enemy knows in the end game turns that you've got this ace up your sleeve, so to speak. So you can even use that in tandem with like Angel Sacrifice, where you go ahead and try and sacrifice your Librarian, and then go. But at the same time, I'm going to activate my 3+ invulnerable save. And I guess, yeah, if the enemy has snipers, that's a tricky thing to deal with. But again, the extra 1 wound might be the difference between you surviving or not surviving. So usually the thing though, Adam, is if they have snipers, you're on a 2+ save anyway, unless they're hitting you in turn 1 with -3. Yeah, well, I mean, hold on. What are they going to snipe you with that's going to make your armor... Artificer armor is a 2+ save, 5+ invulnerable save. What are they going to be sniping with you that's going to make the armor Indomitus's 2+ save more than -3 anyway, right? Ordering a pizza now. Should I get some baked beans on it, John? If you want, get them underneath the cheese though, so that they're roasty toasty and burn your mouth. Alright, we then have 2 Incursor squads in this patrol detachment, which is fine, makes sense, Incursors are very good. We also have company veterans here, so I guess the sniper angle is maybe a little bit mute. Hey Krychek, thanks for tuning in, how you doing? So we can use the company veterans to protect them in an early turn. Pizza with beans and pineapple, yeah, that will really trigger some people. I'm gonna make a pizza now one night with beans and pineapple on it and put a photo up on the channel and see if we can spark a debate. And then we have Eradicators with melter rifles. Okay, second detachment is the Vanguard Detachment, and we start with our Sangery Priest with Jump Pack and Icon of the Angel. And yeah, I think this is totally fine. Like I said, I've dropped the Selfless Healer component of this guy. It's so expensive. So that's fine. Redemptor Dreadnought, Stormbolter macro onslaught. Another Redemptor Dreadnought, Fragstorm macro onslaught. Both are fine. There's almost no difference between the Fragstorm and the Stormbolters throughout the course of a game. You know, Stormbolter is going to get you 8 shots in half range and can shoot in close combat. Fragstorm is going to maybe be slightly better against hordes. I think personally I prefer the Stormbolters because I feel like Fragstorms are more edge case. But I think it's fine to have both. We then have a Sangria Ancient who has an Infernal Pistol and has the Rites of War and the Wrath of Baal, so we're giving +2 to all our jump units move speed, and we're potentially giving all our jump units obsec. We have a 2, 4, 6, 8 Sangri Guard, mostly axes, couple of swords. Vanguard Veterans squad with all the Lightning Claws, Infernal Pistol and Thunderhammer, and another one with basically the same, but this time 1 less Lightning Claw because we've taken a Chain Sword, I assume, just because we don't have quite enough points to get that last Lightning Claw in. And then we also have attack bikes here. Multi-melt attack bikes. I was going to say, you've got Eradicators in this first detachment. I wasn't sure we were going to see any more fire support in terms of attack bikes, but we've got them, and then we've got the Whirlwind as well. Okay. Where did Beans come in? Beans came in last night on the stream when people were asking about... Someone asked last night on the stream if pineapple was good on pizza, and chat went off on some mad tangent. It was a good time last night. Okay. Whirlwind for the fight last. I guess 6 multi-meltas, 3 on bikes, 3 on Eradicators, 5 CP, which is as low as I would say we would go. 2 squads of jump units with mainly Lightning Claws, couple of one Thunderhammer in both. Large squad of Sangri Guard plus the Ancient. 2 Redemptors. The Priest with a jump pack and Icon of the Angel, which makes sense, I guess, because you're gonna combo up Icon of the Angel with the Wrath of Baal from the Sangri Ancient. We have 1, 2, 3 characters here. And interesting. Alright, so we do typically see captains. So this is one of the few lists that we haven't seen a captain. Good afternoon, Scarbell. How you doing? Someone wants to justify beans on a pizza. No, I just said last night that when I was a kid, we used to always get at birthday parties beans on a pizza, but underneath the cheese and tomato. So like baked beans went on first, then the cheese and tomato went on top. And those beans underneath were always really, really hot for whatever reason. Question I have on the CP is switch to a battalion, drop the vets and a bike, and get another Phobos unit. That's a good question. You're already running two. You are already running two Phobos units, and you only have 3 Well, you actually only have 2 HQ because what's the use of the vets here? Like to protect your characters, or because the way I use the vets in my game is, or my list is to perform like stuff like Octarius data. But I guess with 2 Incursor squads, you maybe don't need to do that so much. The vet's purpose is mainly actions. Okay. Yeah, I mean, drop a bike in a veteran squad. What does that let you do? Does it just let you get like one more unit of Phobos? 105 points. Okay, yeah, so you would literally need to find 1 point to get that 3rd squad of Incursors. Well, that's tempting because with only 5 CP, you're making it like it's difficult for you to put any of this stuff into reserve. And like you could totally put your attack bikes into reserve. Or if you were going to drop one attack bike, you could split them up. So you could put like a unit of Incursors and an attack bike into reserve for 1 CP. So you would have 8 CP. You would be down to 7. But I guess the advantage is that you can have a unit of Incursors come in and score points for engage or stuff like that very easily. And you could have one attack bike start on the table and the other one start off the table. I like being able to bring on my like. I pretty much always put my attack bikes into reserve now. They don't. If you're running a squad of 3 next to the healer, the Sangery Priest, and you're ready to resurrect one each turn with the CP, then I think it's okay to run the attack bikes in squads of 3. If you're not running the Sangery Priest next to them. Like, if your Sangri Priest is doing other things, right? Your Sangri Priest is going to be with the Sangri Guard, or in my case, they're going to be with the Vanguard Veterans. It's dead easy for the enemy to shoot the attack bikes out. They're only toughness 5, they only have 4 wounds. They do die fairly quick. I mean, I was playing against Colin with his Death Guard, and he was basically able to mortar from his Plague Burst Crawler, take out all my attack bikes before I could even shoot them, right? So I have to start them off the board unless I want to lose all my attack bikes in turn 1, and he shoots them out with indirect fire. So, yeah, because Death Guard, the mortars on Death Guard are -2 damage. So you're basically only saving on 5s, and he wounds on 3s and he rerolls 1s because they're plague weapons. And he can also do some sort of stratagem that makes it that like the mortars explode for extra damage. So yeah, I like bringing my attack bikes on where I need a little bit of bolster, and when they come on 6 inches from the edge of the board, you know, they got 24 inches on those multi-meltas, no penalty for moving shooting, so you're bringing on 4 multi-meltas, so you're probably going to get 3 hits, so you're probably going to be able to do a decent bit of damage with a little bit of luck. Maybe you could even CP one of those hit rolls when you bring them in, or bring them in next to one of your captains, or, well, I mean, your list doesn't have a captain, but I suppose you could have a Dreadnought that you ping Wisdom of the Ancient on, and then bring the attack bike in next to it. It's an interesting choice. So you've got Hero of the Chapter here for Rites of War and Wrath of Baal. Here's a question though, right? And we talk about it before, right? when I was winning 11 games in a row or something, like, I had one OBSEC unit in that list, and I'm back to winning ways with my new list, right? And my new list is a very, like, so at the beginning of the year, I had a list before chapter approved that won 11 games in a row, and I didn't lose a game with that list, right? Like, chapter approved came out and the list had to change, right? Like, I was not going to probably change that list much. It just won 11 games in a row, and it had one OBSEC unit, and it had no Rights of War. And I changed my list quite a bit when Chapter Approved came out and started losing games, and then I have now returned to my list that had the one OBSEC unit, which is just a unit of infiltrators, and when I was doing that, here's my question for you, right? You've got a Sangri Ancient with like 8 Sangri Guard and 10 Vanguard Veterans, and they can all move an extra 2 inches. So in turn 1, you can try and position them, or in deployment, you position them forward in cover. In turn 1, you try and jump to cover and set yourself up for like a turn 2 charge or a counter charge against the enemy. And you also have your Sangery Priest, so arguably you could put 2 of those units into Assault Doctrine. So you put the Sangri Guard into Assault Doctrine because they obviously do the most damage, and you put one of the Vanguard Veteran squads into Assault Doctrine as well. Now you're able to jump 14 inches, and you're able to reroll a bunch of your charges because of the Sangery Priest. So if your units manage to get onto the enemy objectives, you know, like if the Sangri Guard manage to get on the enemy objective, if the Vanguard Veterans get on the enemy objective, like, what are you expecting to be left on that objective that is going to obsec that away from you, right? Because that's what we talked a lot about. Like, as great as Rights of War is on paper, like, I'm not sure Blood Angels necessarily need Rights of War, because if you have 8 Sangri Guard and 10 Vanguard Veterans on 2 different objectives, like, what's left that's obsec? You know, like, just make sure you kill OBSEC stuff, and then you've got 8 Sangri Guard on that objective. I doubt they've got 8 models on it, right? It's a 1 CP insurance policy. Yeah, that's a tough one, right? And I mean, I guess it's the same as, like, at the moment, me and Highland Phoenix are having a big debate about my list, and like, should I try and find a way to get Icon of Angel into my list, because last battle I had to use 2 or 3 CP on charge rerolls. And I guess that's the thing with relics, right? Sometimes it can be the right call to have them, and sometimes it can be a really difficult call to drop them, but like, you might not need them. So yeah, I don't know. I think that you could go the battalion way, and I think the list would be fine. I think you can keep it the way it is. I think the way it is you have less options, right? Because I mean, unless you spend what, yeah. Do you know what I would probably do? I would probably keep the list the way it is. I would drop Rights of War and use that 1 CP I get every game. You know, like, use that 1 CP, so basically you're still starting the game on 5, to put your 3 attack bikes and your company veterans into strategic reserve, right? Because that's exactly 9 power level. That's exactly the cost of 1 CP. And I think that lets you react to the opponent and also score points very, very easily. And I agree with your view on Icon of the Angel, John. Okay. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, the other option... Wow, 3 Eradicators are more power level than 3 attack bikes. That's nuts. I just realised that. Okay. The way I see it is Wrath of Baal's extra 2 inches is really an extra 2 inches on my charges that I get during the movement phase, and I've been having good success with extra movement. That's very true, Levi. Wrath of Baal can help make your charges more reliable, just because you obviously can get closer. I guess if you want to keep Rights of War, I'd probably try and switch this up into the battalion and lose the attack bike and the veterans, I guess. If you don't care about what Rights of War, then I would do what I said and drop Rights of War, put your attack bikes and your veterans into strategic reserves, And here's the thing, right? If you don't think that your units can obsec the objective away from the enemy, then bring on your 3 attack bikes and shoot the damn obsec troops, or shoot the damn troops with all those multi-meltas and twin bolt guns, and double down on taking the primaries from your enemy, right? Okay, so 3 damage weapons. We have the 3 attack bikes, we have the 3 eradicators, we have the 2 thunderhammers here. The 2 dreadnoughts have 2 each. So that gives us like 6, 8. Got infernal pistols there, that's 10. Another infernal pistol, 11. 2 dreadnoughts, 15. And then our librarians, so 16. So we have a great number of 3 damage weapons. We also have a very good number of denies. Let's think about a little bit of scoring here as it stands. So obsec-wise, we have 2 Phobos units plus Rites of War. So we're going to start with a 9 on the obsec. It's also worth noting that we have the Whirlwind here in this list too, so we do have the Fight Last. Didn't mention that yet. Anti-Horde wise then, bolters off the Sangri Guard, bolters off the attack bikes, the Whirlwind, onslaughts and stormbolters and fragstorms off the Redemptors. A little bit of firepower coming out from the Incursors. I actually think that this has probably got some of the most anti-Horde. This is more anti-Horde than my list. I guess you could argue that you've got another Angelus bolt gun on this. Oh no, it's Infernal Pistol now. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, I think anti-Horde on this list is pretty good. Bear in mind that we're talking about shooting, so 2 dreadnoughts, 3 attack bikes. It doesn't have many characters, so it's got a little bit more from the Sangri Guard and the Whirlwind. I'm going to give it a 9 for anti-Horde shooting. Obviously, it can still melee the hordes, but I like to base a lot of that on how much I feel shooting it has. Okay, anti-vehicle monster. Well, we talked about how it's got like 16 3 damage weapons. We have a ton of attack bikes. Sorry, we have a ton of multi-meltas, attack bikes and eradicators. We have the 2 Redemptors. We have the Sangri Guard and the 2 Vanguard Veterans. And yeah, your company veterans just have chainswords. Okay, double chainsword because that's fun as well. Cool. So anti-horde monster is probably a 9. Extra reliable. We'll say 9.5 because you're going to have extra reliability on your jump units from both the Wrath of Baal and Icon of the Angel there as well. Mobility, I guess, is generally really good. I think it's probably like an 8 for mobility. If you drop Rites of War, though, you would lose some in OBSEC, and I'd probably give you the points back for mobility. I wouldn't reserve my units and put myself down on 4 CP. 4 CP feels like a really low amount of CP to start with. Especially if you want to be doing some suppression fire, some guerrilla tactics, it doesn't leave you all that much. And I feel like you're probably gonna want to do guerrilla tactics like at least twice. You're probably gonna want to suppress something at least twice. So I think mobility comes in like as an 8, and then I think specialization. We talk about the fight last. We talk about the denies. We definitely have units for actions. We definitely have 3 damage weapons. We may be getting like a little less out of our characters here, right? Like the Sangery Priest, the Sangria Ancient, and the Librarian are never going to be super amazing. Does Wrath of Baal impact mobility? Yeah, I mean, I think I gave you more points. I think I gave you more points for anti-monster vehicle because you'll make those charges, but I think that we have to be wary of our starting CP here, right? Because like I feel like you really do want to reserve something, but it's going to be difficult to do that just because of the starting CP. You think it's slightly better than an 8? Yeah, I mean it does improve charges. I kind of put the monster infantry on a 9.5 because I kind of felt that the charges were getting improved there. Yeah, I mean I think it goes. There is no rerolls for hits, I guess, on the charges. Like, there's no chapter master rerolls for the bikes, for the redemptors, anything like that. We can put Wisdom of the Ancient. Yeah, I mean, we could swap that. We could go 9 and 8.5. And I think the issue is just the CP is it's going to be testing. Yeah, because I mean, like, if I took this list up against Sisters or Death Guard, I'm gonna want to reserve stuff, and if I reserve stuff starting on 4 CP is just it's rough. I already said you're gonna want to suppression fire a couple of times. You're gonna want to guerrilla tactics a couple of times. You're probably gonna want to Wisdom of the Ancients a couple of times, and at that point you're out of CP. Or if you do each of those things 2 times, you've got what? 1 more CP for the entire game, which is or maybe 2 more CP, something like that. Like it's very, very low. I don't suppose you've got much you can transhuman here though, so maybe that's a little mute point. Also, yeah, I don't know. It could have been 9.5 and 8, or it could have been the other way around. I think both of those are pretty good. And then specialization, I think we kind of hit everything that we want to on specialization there. The only thing that I don't like, and it's just my personal preference, is I like to have some really strong characters that can deal a lot of damage and survive and angel sacrifice. I don't think we have that, but I think overall, I think I would put a 9 on that, and I think that would I'm like 90% confident that'll be the strongest list of the week. We don't often get anything close to 44. So yeah, probably take like half a point off in specialization for your characters aren't the strongest, and a half point off for lack of CP at starting the game. But I think it's a pretty strong list. I think it hits all the bases. It scores generally pretty high. I think it would be a while. I think it would be months before we last saw a list of 44. Let's check. June. We last list at 44.5 was Reziel on the 6th of June. Okay, so it's basically taken 3 months for someone else to get 44.5. So, I guess you and Reziel are tied for the high. I don't know if anyone's ever beaten that. I don't know how far back this document goes. It goes back for a while. Someone, Mark F, had a 45.5 way back in March. So yeah, it's about once every 3 months we get these 44 above lists. So good job, Jar Miniatures. You are quarter three's king of army lists. You have to tell us how it does now, right? You have to report back and tell us how many wins in a row you get with it, etc. Jar Miniatures actually does a lot of. You do a lot of. I follow you on Twitter, and you do a lot of Blood Angels painting and stuff. So if you want to drop your Twitter link or something, so people can also follow, you can do that. I don't mind. And I think about my only criticism is your starting CP, which is obviously very, very difficult to fix. Artificer armor could be better. I say it could be better as armor Indomitus. It might not be, but it definitely could be if you're running him in that big blob of stuff. And he's unshootable. I can't add links, but the same username on Twitter, Instagram. Okay, so if anyone wants to follow Jar Miniatures on Twitter, they can do that as well. Cool. And yeah, do you know what? It's nice. It's nice to see such a high score where you're still running the priest, you're still getting value out the priest, but you're not necessarily having to spend the 35 points for Selfless Healer. Or not just the 35 points, I guess, the 1 CP as well. I mean, I don't think you've got the 1 CP to be able to afford it here anyway. But, cool. Okay, moving on to list number 3 for today then. And it's by Sellers. And yeah, at the end of the stream, I'll post all the lists into the video description, so if anyone wants to check out the streams after one. Can anyone help me to find out a way to counter a specific army list I constantly lose from? I would appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we can probably help you out. Are you in the Discord, Papa? Alright, let's have a look at Sellers now. And he is... on my computer, not me to clean that off. Is the Teeth of Terra better than the Hammer of Baal? The Teeth of Terra is an infantry killer. The Hammer of Baal is a armor killer. So the Teeth of Terra, you're going to get more attacks, and it's going to be but they're much less strength, right? Whereas the Hammer of Baal is much more strength, more consistent damage, I guess. But the one thing that's nice about the Teeth of Terra is it's essentially free because it's a chainsword, and a chainsword costs 0 points. Whereas the Hammer of Baal is, 20 points because it's a Thunder Hammer. Actually, it might be 25 points on some models for the Thunder Hammer. Alright, Seller says, in 1987, a very drunk David Bowie thought it was a great idea to hit on Axl Rose's future wife. In his defense, she was decked out in leather lingerie for a photo shoot. What's this got to do with Blood Angels? When Axl saw what Bowie was doing, he shouted the mortal words, "You're gonna die, Tin Man," just before he swung first. This is a man who understands the Black Rage, so crank it up to the volume on You Could Be Mine and put 7 sprays of Drakkar Noir because List is in the same spirit. Okay. I definitely did not get some of these references. Maybe did. I'm not really a David Bowie fan. I like Guns N' Roses. You Could Be Mine. You Could Be Mine was a song from Terminator 2. If you don't remember that, it was the song when John Connor was in the mall. You know, he's like, "Come with me if you want to live." I like Terminator 2. Okay, Eternal War, 9 CP, 2000 points, battalion. So we start with a Warlord, Captain on a Bike, Infernal Pistol, Thunderhammer, Chapter Master, Gift of Foresight, and he's going to be rocking the Relic Hammer of Baal. Terminator 2 is greater than Terminator 1. Or less than Terminator 1. You know what? Terminator 1 was very good as well. I'll give you that. I generally just like all the old 80s Schwarzenegger films. Primaris Chaplain on a Bike, Imperium Sword, Canticle of Hate for the +2 charge, Relic of Benediction of Fury, for the 3 damage Crozius, and that's him. I feel like I was looking for something more. Maybe Wise Orator, but this is okay. Sangery Priest, Visage of Death, and Honoured by the Arx Angelicum. This is not something that I... What the hell? What is Honoured by the Arx Angelicum? Gotta check the book. Become serious business. I feel like that's one of the stratagems that lets you give them a relic or something, right? Or is it? I don't know what that is. Someone in chat help me out. Oh, it's for a Successor chapter? Did he say it was Successors? He didn't say it was a Successor chapter. Alright, so I guess it's a thank you for subscribing, Curtis. It's just a Successor chapter then that I assume he's just got the Red Thirst and the standard Blood Angels rules. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's probably just painted as a Successor chapter or something like that. Okay. So he's just taking Vision of Death on his priest with the jump pack. And Visage of the Death makes you -1 to hit and removes OBSEC. I prefer Rites of War, and the reason that I prefer Rites of War is the 6-inch bubble. Visage of Death is a 3-inch bubble, which means potentially the enemy can position their units specifically to avoid the bubble, because it's only 3 inches, and potentially still steal an objective from you, unless you're basically standing right on it, and I don't know about the logistics of having your character stand right down center of the objective. Sometimes it's just not possible. My math for T5, the top is better, however, not T5 things have odd wounds, so it falls off. I'm not sure, Peter, what's the question? Is the Teeth of Terror better than the Hammer of the Ball? Against Toughness 5? Against Toughness 5, you're probably going to get more value out of the Hammer of the Ball, but it's going to cost you more. Points, right? Is there space for the Warlord trait or the second selfless the second hero of the chapter? I guess hero of. Apparently, it can't find hero, even though I'm damn looking at it here. Hero. Hero. Yeah, he doesn't have another hero of the chapter. Okay, so I would prefer Rites of War. If you're going to take one of these two, I would say Rites of War is better than Visage of Death. I mean, the -1 to hit maybe keeps your priest alive a little bit, but I feel like if the enemy wants to kill your Sangery Priest, they kill them, right? He's just a toughness 4 character. He only has 4 wounds. He only has a 3+ armor save. Like, if the enemy want to kill a Sangery Priest in close combat, I don't think -1 to hit makes a huge difference. I think they still kill him. Usually when my priest dies, it's like way overkill, because people want to kill the priest, right? Because they know the priest's providing the it's providing the Feel No Pain aura, is providing the healing. So when people go after the priest, it's not like, oh, we're going to attack the priest with 4 chain swords. It's like, I'm going to put all of Mortarian's attacks into the priest is usually what happens. You know, and it's like, well, the priest just remove the priest. There's no point rolling the dice. Like, he's dead. -1 to hit makes literally no difference, I think. But that's my opinion. No one's going light on your priest. So in this case, I would take the Rites of War over the Visage of Death and just try and... I think that the Rites of War actually give... Because it's a 6-inch bubble, I think you can play the priest more defensively now. Anyway, so you can play the priest more defensively, probably less likely to be able to get in contact or charge him. So in that way, he probably survives better than he does with Vigil of Death anyway. Alright, troops. We have 1 squad of heavy intercessors. The sergeant has the Hellstorm bolt rifle. I will need to check that. I bought heavy intercessors. I have not painted them yet, so apparently I suck. But I will get round to painting them. I did think they were a fun unit. What is the Hellstorm heavy bolt rifle? Let's see. Heavy intercessor squad. Hellstorm heavy bolt rifle. Assault 3, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. He didn't say how else the rest of the squad were armed, so I'm guessing it's the default. They just get heavy bolt rifles. So rapid fire, -1 damage. I'm not sure it's worth the point. Is the Hellstorm bolt rifle free, or should you have had to pay points for that? Heavy intercessors. You should have had to pay 10 points. No. Hellstorm bolt rifle. Do all of them have this? Sorry. All the models being equipped with the... For every 5 models, 1 heavy... No. Alright, every model. So basically this is almost like the... So every model has an Assault 3, Strength 5, 0 AP, 1 damage. So it's basically like the Intercessors with auto bolt rifles. So we have a squad of heavy Intercessors with the auto bolt rifles, sort of. And then we have 2 squads of Incursors. We have a 3-man Blade Guard Veteran squad. And you know what? I played 3 and 4 for a little while. And like, I think they just work best in 5s, my opinion. If you want them to hold the middle and score Oath of Moment every turn, which is arguably one of the best ways to play them, I think they work best in 5s. We then have 8 Death Company, and I guess they're just Bolter and Chainswords. We have 7 Sangri Guard, and I think the default option here is Swords. We have... This is the GW app, so because it's the GW app, it just shows the default options on these army lists, which is a little bit annoying. I prefer the verbose stuff that Battlescribe puts out. We then have Vanguard Veterans, Lightning Claw, Storm Shields, Infernal Pistol, Relic Blade on the Sergeant. A couple more just, I guess, with their default Chainsword and Bolt Pistol, and then a few more with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. It's very weird how 2 of those lines are identical. This Vanguard Veteran and these Vanguard Veterans are the same. But it's mainly a squad of Lightning Claws, a Relic Blade in there, and a few Chainswords, I guess cheap models to take some wounds on. We have an Assault squad, which we don't see very often, with a couple of Meltaguns, an Infernal Pistol, and obviously jump packs. 145 points for Assault Marines. Why are they so expensive? Is it the Meltaguns that cost the points? Assault Marines, they're in fast attack. Sorry, I was looking in elites. Yeah, no, they've been fast attack for a while. So Assault Squad is 18 points per model. Jump packs are 2 points per model, so it's 100 points for the squad. Then you've got 2 Meltaguns. Meltaguns are not listed as an option. Of course, Meltaguns aren't listed as an option because this must have been changed in the chapter approved book that I have here. Hold on. Oh, it's a squad of 6. Thank you. Okay, so it's a squad of 6, and then Meltaguns are what, 10 points per each, I guess. Yeah, so you pay 20 points for the Meltaguns and 5 for the Infernal Pistol. I don't know. I want to go back to... Who was it that said in chat? I think it was Reziel that says hammers are my meltas. I don't think you get that much value out of 2 Meltaguns. You know, you get 2 Meltaguns, you only hit on 3s. So basically you're going to get 1 hit on average, probably. They're probably overcosted. The Infernal Pistol is really short range. What could you do with 145 points instead? You could have like another squad of just 5 Vanguard Veterans, all with Lightning Claws. I'd probably, if this was my list, I'd probably lose the Assault. I don't know what value it brings. A couple of overcosted, you know. Well, you get a squad of Eradicators here and have 10 points to spare. The Eradicators are probably going to be more reliable for damage output just because they just have much better range. Making these a 6 as well is you just making them potentially have to deal with blast a little bit worse than they would if they were a 5. I don't think we definitely put assault squads in a very bad place in the tier lists. Let's see where we put them. Fast attack tier, assault squads were crap. We put them at the top of C, but they are crap. So I think that you'd be better off just... He's got 2 more elite slots in this list because this is a battalion. So I would drop this assault squad and find yourself another elite squad. Or improve your current elites, right? And what I mean by improve them is get 1 more Sangri Guard in here, maybe. Get a couple of Thunderhammers into this Death Company. Get Yeah, if you lost the assault squad, 145 points. 2 more Blade Guard veterans, that's 70. 1 more Sangri Guard, that's 102. 2 Thunderhammers into this, that's 132. So you could actually, and then throw in like, yeah, so you could do that. Like, make the Sangri Guard an 8, make the Blade Guard veterans a 5, give this Death Company 2 Thunderhammers. That's already sounding better than this, and you've got about 15 more points to play with. We then have 2 squads of Outriders, and personally, I don't like Outriders. We compared them a while back, because they're 150 points, right? And 5 Vanguard Veterans, Lightning Claws, and Storm Shields are also 150 points, exactly. I think that you get more value out of the Vanguard Veterans, and when we math hammered it, in almost every situation, the Vanguard Veterans would do more damage because the Lightning Claws are better than the Chainswords. They don't have such a horrific fall off when you're charged, or when you're not charged, sorry, because the Outriders are great when they do charging, but if they don't kill things, and they get stuck in combat, they lose 6 attacks from the squad, which is actually horrific. I think they go from like 21 attacks on the charge down to 10 attacks. So they're really, really weak in the second turn of combat. They're only better, and it was only in like one situation, they're slightly better against like bolt rifles or bolt guns. Every other weapon, the Vanguard Veterans are on top against. The issue is Vanguard Vets are only 1 point more. Yeah, and I guess if we're talking about you struggling for elites, you could make a 10 Vanguard Veteran squad, all Lightning Claws, and then you could combat squad them. Or you could keep 3 Outriders if you really want, but I did a video on Outriders versus Vanguard Veterans, and that was before the chapter proved points costs came out. But all the maths apart from the points cost still stands that says like Outriders are. I think when Outriders were 135 points, yeah, I'm okay with them. But 150 points, no, they're not worth 150 points. They just, like I'm saying that attack bikes die so quickly that I have to put them into strategic reserve against certain armies. Well, Outriders are identical to attack bikes. Toughness 5, 3+ save, 4 wounds, right? They just die. So yeah, I don't like the attack bikes either. And then Eliminators with the Sergeant with the Las Fusel. Eliminators, I run Eliminators a few times. What about comparing Outriders to regular bike squad? Regular bikes are 30 points per model, and I think you get some better weapon options, Dino Shepherd. So they probably, and you would get, or you could just take 5 with the default loadout. So if you took 5 with the default loadout, you would have more wounds by default. You'd probably have like a similar amount of attacks as well. But I think the whole point of doing the comparison with the Vanguard Veterans was because, yes, the Vanguard Veterans only move 2 inches less than the bikes, but they can get cover, whereas the bikes can't. And if they get into cover, then they're on a 1-up save because of their Storm Shield, which means if they're getting hit with like small arms fire, they're on a 2-up save, if it's -1 AP. Whereas the bikes will always be, even the second you hit them with -1, they're on a 4-up save. So the bikes kind of die to a lot of things. And yeah, I mean, I guess the advantage of the regular bike squad is that you can put in an attack bike here and there to get like a multi-melta and have the multi-melta fairly protected because the enemy need to chew through like 9 wounds on crappy attack bikes. If you want a fast-moving unit that's gonna, like a really fast-moving unit, then I would say that I would take a bike squad over Outriders. I don't actually own any bike squads, and I own 6 or 9 Outriders, but like, yeah, I just don't think the Outriders are in a competitive place right now. They fall off too hard, and it's only chainswords that they've got, right? So they don't kill things in combat, right? If you just think about like 3 Outriders charging a squad of Marines, right? So, and they really don't they really don't kill anything in combat. Let me just pull up the profile for Outriders and we'll do some very, very quick math, and I'll show you what I mean by them being absolute junk. And I mean, we can do some very, very quick maths on regular attack bikes as well. Clinton, thank you so much for subscribing. When I find the damn Outriders profile, I've probably flicked past it already. At some point, if they could just put each section in alphabetical order, that would be super appreciated. Okay. So 3 attacks and 2 attacks, right? So if we are charging, it's 5 attacks and 4 attacks. So that is 5 plus 4 plus 4. That's 13 attacks plus 6 from Devastating Charge, right? So if it's in turn 3 and we've got our Devastating Charge up, we're getting 19 attacks. So that is best that we can get, right? Oh, and we've got chainswords as well in each unit, right? So it's plus 3 attacks as well because the chainsword gives an extra attack, right? So it's 22 attacks. So you think, like, cool, 22 attacks. That's cool. But we're only hitting on 3s, so we only get 14 hits. Let's say we're wounding Marines. Well, we only get... we're wounding Marines with our +1 to wound, so we get 9 wounds, and then we're going to save against them 4 times. So, like, a squad of Outriders literally kill 2 regular Marines of Intercessors on a charge. And then once they've charged, right, next turn, each model is going to lose... They're going to lose the 2 attacks they got from Devastating Charge and the 2 attacks that they got from our other charge bonuses. So you go from 22 attacks down to 10, and then you also lose the Red Thirst. So on the second round of combat, you only get 10 attacks, you're only hitting on 6s, you're only wounding on 5s, and then they're saving on 5s. When I say 5s, I mean 50%, sorry. So in round 2 of combat, you do 1.6 damage. So, like, your Outriders charge a squad of Intercessors, they kill 2 of them, and in the enemy's turn, when you get to go first, you do a wound, maybe 2 if you're lucky. It's just terrible. Like, you could spend 300 points on Outriders here for a charge to kill 4 Intercessors. 300 points kills 80 points of models. I just hate them. At 135 points, when there were 45 per model, I was like, yeah, they're okay. They're not great, they're okay. And then they put them up 5 points. And they've got no weapon options either, so you're just stuck with the chainswords. I suppose the one thing we're not countering is the fact that they do have twin bolt rifles. So, I mean, they do get to do a little bit of shooting. It's not horrendous, their shooting. But it's not great either. And then our Eliminators with a las fusel seems like I feel like Eliminators, you either want them all with las fusels so that they're shooting tanks or armor, or you want them all with the sniper rifles. And I also think 3 Eliminators doesn't work. I think for Eliminators, I think you either do 6 or you do none. I tried 3 with a Phobos Captain, and it was okay. 2021 Outrider review, I just hate them. I think I only hate them, Jordan, because I spent ages painting a bunch of them. And I was painting them Death Company, and I don't know if you guys have seen my Death Company, but I do, edge highlighting, and I'm meticulous about it, and it takes me hours and hours and hours, and painting the bikes was taking hours and hours and hours and hours, and they were going to look really cool. And then I realised that they were just garbage on the table. I lost a few games because of that. I never mathed them out, and I ran them. I think I ran a squad of them into a squad of aggressors, Ultramarine aggressors, and it was the worst round of combat I've ever had, and that was with all the bonus attacks. Once the bonus attacks fell off, I just had my bikes just getting eaten by a squad of aggressors that were cheaper than me, and I did the charging, and I was just like, wow, the bikes are just rubbish. Eradicators are action takers that do something useful in between. Your mistake is thinking about them just as snipers. I think they can be action takers, Steel Rain, but if they're going to be action takers, you probably want to take the Instigator bolt carbine on the sergeant, right? Not the las fusel, so that you get the additional movement. You get to use the additional movement. Yeah, I converted one of my Outriders into a chaplain on a bike. My chaplain on a bike isn't the official model. I made one from an Outrider. So eliminators, I suppose, are okay. A 3-man squad, I think. Yeah, maybe it just doesn't fit in my playstyle. I felt like the 3-man squad. I mean, in one game they did actually snipe a bunch of Death Guard characters, and it was fine. But overall, I wasn't super impressed with them. Okay, so we've got. Let's see if we can put a score together for this list. I've made my points. I don't like Outriders. I don't like the Assault Squad. I would try and improve these squads that you have. I'd probably switch out the Outriders for some fire support in this list. If this was me, and bear in mind that I do play Blood Angels a little bit different, this 400 points here, I would trade it out for 2 Redemptors. I feel like this list is also lacking in anti-armor. Maybe that's what he was trying to do with this assault squad with a couple of melta-guns on it, but I don't think it's enough. And maybe that's what he was trying to do with his las fusel here. But yeah, the Death Company are just bolter and chainsword. The Sangri Guard, I guess, are okay. The Blade Guard are okay. But yeah, really, this list has a real lack of 3 damage weapons. You've got, I suppose you've got 3 on the captains here, and then you've got the 2 melta guns. So you've got 5 3 damage weapons. I guess the las fusel here gives you 6 3 damage weapons. But yeah, this list is lacking in 3 damage weapons for sure. And it's kind of lacking in fire support too. Jules, thanks so much for following. Okay, so let's think about scoring this list. And OBSEC wise then, we've got 3 troops, 2 of which are incursors, so that's like an 8.5. It's the first list we've seen 3 troop choices today. We also have Visage of Death, which I think I said gives another half, so we're looking at like OBSEC of 9. Anti-infantry, anti-horde. We get Sangri Guard guns. We have the heavy intercessor auto bolt rifles. And I guess we've got Outriders bringing, 24 bolt rifle shots as well. So there's a little bit of anti-horde firepower, but overall it feels pretty light. We're going to go with a 7. I guess you can kill hordes with these Outriders. I guess the Outriders could probably kill some. The Vanguard Veterans and the Death Company can definitely kill some as well, but it's not ideal for your stronger units to be wrapped up with horde. That's why there's this emphasis on shooting. Only having 6 3 damage weapons feels kind of rough against Death Guard. We've got these 2 characters. If they're supported well and survive, they could do some work. But I don't like the Blade Guard only being 3. I would like to see like at least 1 Thunderhammer somewhere else in this list. Like there's no Thunderhammer in the Death Company. There's no Thunderhammer in the Vanguard Vets. Yeah, there's a couple of melta guns on here, but like overall, I think anti-monster armor is pretty rough. I think I'd go with like a 7.5. Clint says, I traded my Outriders for Blade Guard Vets. Outriders do not belong in Blood Angels list. I'm sure Outriders will get buffed at some point. I was actually really surprised that their multi-part kit doesn't have any other weapon options on them. You know, if you think about Space Marine bikers being able to take like pistols and power swords and all sorts, I think if they'd given them a decent multi-part kit, they might have been okay, because they have that devastating charge, which would, you know, like if they could take a Thunderhammer and you get a bonus of +2 attacks on the charge and you were wielding Thunderhammers, that's pretty exciting. But the fact you're just wielding chainswords just makes it weak, right? Emil says, planning to convert Outriders to attack bikes using a pair of melta guns, alternatively a multi-melta, perhaps not viable in tournaments. Maybe if you put them on a base that's the size of the attack bike, you might get away with it, Emil, but yeah, maybe not. Drackle says I got some Outriders and still never used them. I used them once or twice, I wasn't very happy with them. When you're able to help me with that list, just at me your Discord. There's a link in Discord down below. Just join our Discord, Papa, and we'll chat in there for sure. Okay, mobility-wise, I mean, you have the Eliminators that have the advanced deployment, you have the Outriders that have great movement, you have the Assault Squad, the Vanguard Veterans, the Sangri Guard, the Death Company that can all deep strike, the Blade Guard can't move quickly, and the heavy Intercessors can't move quickly, but the Incursors can with guerrilla tactics, and all your HQs can, and you've got a decent amount of starting CP here as well, 9. So I think mobility is probably up there with that last list, let's say 8.5. And then specialization. This is where it's going to struggle, right? We've got no way to fight last. We've got no denies. We do have units for actions. We do not have 3 damage weapons. And then we generally don't have fire support either. So I think like specialization, I think I would say 6.5. I generally, and just because I've rated the score low, Sellers, doesn't mean it's a bad list. It just doesn't mean it's just not how I like to play Blood Angels. But it's certainly not super competitive either right now. I think if you wanna be all jumpy and all like melee combat based, because obviously like my list I have a good bit of fire support with 2 Redemptors and 2 attack bikes. But if you want to be all jumpy and more combat based, then go and watch the last list that we just looked at, Jar Miniatures list, because he had the Wrath of Baal, he had the icon of the angel, and that to me is better than the Outriders plan. Remember, in fact, the jump units move the same distance as the Outriders. If they're in range of that Wrath of Baal aura, and then you've got rerolls on charges, and you've got much more reliable damage output. So yeah, Sellers, it's okay, but yeah, hopefully I've given you some suggestions, and I think that you maybe need to, if you're trying to build a tournament list, you maybe need to think about some of the things that you don't have. Like you've got no way to make the enemy fight last, you've got no denies, you definitely have a lack of 3 damage or more weapons. And I like having some fire support, I really do. I think that every game I play, my Redemptors eat up a lot of enemy firepower that would otherwise be directed at like Sangri Guard, at Vanguard Veterans, etc. And I'm totally fine with the enemy shooting their highest power things into Redemptors. Redemptors survive really well. The -1 damage from Duty Eternal really makes up for the fact that they don't have an invulnerable save. I feel like my Redemptors are like walking bullet magnets that help me win a lot of games. Okay, we're going to move on to list 4, unless anyone else has anything to say in that list. And this one is by Matt Stalker. Cool. And if you are new here, because I think seems like there's new people every week, please consider subscribing. You know, we have Blood Angels content coming out every week. And yeah, let me just tell you, tomorrow night, 7:30, so about an hour and 45 minutes from now, tomorrow night, we're playing the new Orc Codex live on the channel. So I haven't played Orcs for a while, and I think he's bringing those new snake bites, which means everything is everything's going to be transhuman, basically, unless I'm hitting them with toughness 8. And I think the only things that I hit with toughness 8 are my plasma cannons. So it's going to be an interesting game. Hey, Holly. No, it's absolutely fine to submit a list. It won't be next week that we review it. There's a bit of a queue because like we have quite a lot of subscribers. But if you want to head over to the community tab on the Blood Angels YouTube channel, what you do is you go to YouTube, Blood Angels Commander, and hit on community tab. In the community tab here, and the latest thing, just post your list as a comment. I'll find it, we'll pick it up, we'll add it to the queue. The Orcs struggle with leadership now, and the snake bites kind of counter the red thirst. Yeah, that's the thing I'm worried about, is the snake bites are going to counter my whole +1 to wound, I think, maybe across the entire army. So we're gonna have a tough game tomorrow night. But I'm looking forward to playing the new orcs. I don't know if they're as broken as some of the other new factions, but I guess we'll find out. Cool. And you know, I'm using my tournament list. I was painting it like crazy last night. I really just have 2 models left to paint for this list, and then my plan is to do a video on the list before or after I go to the tournament, and also do a video on how it does at this tournament, because I'm feeling reasonably happy, I think, with my list. And yeah, I think we've just started winning games again with it, and yeah. Alright. Jules on Twitch, look at the Relic Tempter, the Leviathan, Ironclad, and the Venerable Dread for solid options. Did Jules say something? I totally missed that. What dreadnoughts would you use in case you're not putting a Redemptor on the field? Relic Contemptors, yeah, you're right. Relic Contemptors are very, very strong right now. And Ironclads, even Death Company Dreadnoughts. But if you want fire support, probably Relic Contemptors with Fulkite Cannons. I suppose you could do like a Leviathan with like 1 Grav Flux and 1 Storm Cannon. Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and the Venerable Dreadnought's good as well, actually. The good thing about the Venerable Dreadnought is the 2+ ballistic skill and the 6+ feel no pain, and the Venerable Dreadnought never gets profiled, right? So even on 1 wound it still shoots at max profile, which is pretty nice. The WAG is good but not OP. The hardest thing about them is honestly the toughness 5. Yeah, so the toughness 5, do you know what? The toughness 5 might actually mean that my Red Thirst isn't that bad, right? Because my +1 to wound will just make it that I wound them on 4s, because I guess with Lightning Claws anyway, it'll be exactly, I would just wound on 4s, but I get to reroll anyway. It'll be an interesting game against Orcs. I haven't played them since the new Codex, so if you want to see me hopefully dominate the Orcs tomorrow night, I say hopefully, come join in from about 7:30, so about an hour and a half from now. Alright, let's get into Matt's list. And this is the last list for today. We always do 4 army lists. We are going to be a little over because it's 10 to 6 already, so the stream's going to probably end a little bit late, but hopefully that's okay. Alright, so Patrol Detachment, and we start off with the Calexis Assassin. The Calexis is the anti-Psyker Assassin. She has some very, very interesting abilities in that she can only be hit on rolls of natural 6s, which means actually, maybe it's not natural 6s now, is it? It's her, when you're shooting at her, your weapon skill and ballistic skill are 6. So she's got 4+ invulnerable save, but you only hit her on 6s. She's very good, -2 to all psychic tests within 18 inches. And we should bring Tycho against the Orcs. No, I'm going to be using my tournament list that's pretty much finalised. Grazgul, so no changes. So we've got the Calexis Assassin, Agent of the Imperium. We have a Captain on a Bike, Artisan of War, Adamantium Mantle, Angel's Artifice, Storm Shield, Imperium Sword. This guy is decked, and a Thunderhammer. I'm confused why he's gone Imperium Sword over Gift of Foresight. Let me see if he's got Gift of... I don't think he's got Gift of Foresight in this list. So I would go Gift of Foresight because it gives him some more survivability. And while you do get 1 extra attack from the Thunderhammer, you do get to reroll 1 miss with a Gift of Foresight. I also don't necessarily know if he needs the Storm Shield, because in this case, he's got Angel's Artifice, which gives him a 2+ save, and he's already on toughness 6. So he's T6 with a 2+ save. The Storm Shield gives him that 1-up save, which is, I guess, it's only going to be beneficial really against like weight of -1 fire. So you might be better taking an Infernal Pistol here. I mean, maybe you're fighting against Admech and they're bringing an absolute shitload of like strength 3 pistols with like no AP, then I guess the Storm Shield's going to be good. But otherwise, like an Infernal Pistol with Gift of Foresight, I think is better. I think that the Gift of Foresight gives the Infernal Pistol great reliability. Anything that gets stuck in combat with them, you probably will be able to hit and wound with Infernal Pistol. And, failed saves in close combat from the Infernal Pistol potentially do like 8 damage. We then have a Librarian. Veil of Time, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress. He is the Chief Librarian, but he hasn't taken Psychic Mastery, and I think Psychic Mastery could be very important, especially if you want Null Zone to be reliable. If trying to stack the captain so much, I would give him Hammer of Baal. I guess if you give him Hammer of Baal, though, you have to give up Adamantium Mantle, which loses him his 5+ Shrug, which I think is... I've had a lot of value out of that 5+ Shrug, I'm not going to lie, Jar Miniatures. The amount of times that captain has survived on 1 wound because he's just shrugging. Key times he's managed to shrug off and then stayed alive. I think last week, Andrew shot that captain with, was it like 12 multi-meltas or 10 multi-meltas? And he survived on 1 or 2 wounds or something. And then he had to shoot his other whole squad of Artificer Stormbolters. Those are the Stormbolters that do the flat 2 damage from Sisters. And you can use a command point to make it that 6s do mortal wounds. And he tried that as well. And that captain survived on like 1 wound. And it was a big swing. So that's something to be aware of. If you're running the Calexis, consider comboing the Relic that is another -1 in D3 for mortals on failed tests. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do that. The only question is drop Angel's Artifice. I guess if you do that, you lose your 2-up save. And your +1 toughness and +1 wound. Yeah, I mean, there is multiple ways I suppose you could build that Bite Captain. I'm not saying mine is the best. I just think that mine makes him very survivable and still has good damage output. I guess you could go great damage output and lose some of the survivability, but I like the survivability. He's won a lot of games for me with his survivability. Okay. We then have an Incursor squad. And I guess another thing to mention is if you don't have a Psychic Master, you need to make very sure that your Librarian isn't near your Calexis Assassin, because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Calexis Assassin affects all Psychic tests, not just enemy Psychic tests, right? So if you were within 18 inches of the Calexis Assassin, you're going to get -2 to your Null Zone, meaning that you're really not going to be able to cast Null Zone. This model cannot be targeted. Psycho units that are within 18 of Calexis must subtract 2, yep. So, you're probably really going to want Psychic Mastery here as well. We've got Sangri Guard, and it's 2 squads of 5, 1 with axes, 1 with swords. I don't really love doing that. Like, if I was doing this, I would mix them together, like 3 axes, 2 swords in each. And the reason that I don't love doing them this way is because it's never that easy on the tabletop to be like, see, in turn 1, I'm going to put my axes on the left flank and the swords on the right flank, because that's going to get me the right matchups versus the weapon choices. It's rarely ever that easy, right? So I like to just mix the squads and be like, right, both squads are prepared for whatever they're going to run into. We have the Assault Bolter Inceptors, and I like this. They're a cheap squad. They can perform actions. They can shoot a decent amount of DACA. They're never gonna kill tough targets, but they can take out infantry pretty effectively. And I like the cheap Inceptors. They can also perform an action and shoot. And I did that this week against the Sister of the Battle, and it was actually pretty critical and helped me win the game. We have one Invader ATV with a multi-melta, and I like the Invader ATVs. I'm going to use my £10 voucher I got for subscribing to Warhammer Plus to buy an Invader ATV, because I don't own one and everyone keeps making fun of me for wanting one, but I like them. If you think about them, they're just 25 more points than an attack bike, and they kind of can operate independently. Like, they don't need to be around anything because they're not core and they can't be rezzed by the priest. So it's just 85 points to have one multi-melta that has toughness 5 and 8 wounds and a 14-inch move. And it also gets 6 auto bolt rifle shots. And in close combat, they also get 6 attacks once you get past turn 3. So I like Invader ATVs, 85 points, I think they're fine. And then the Whirlwind with a Castellan launcher, an aggressive Mario Kart, that is exactly what they are. Excuse me. We then have a captain in Phobos armor. And the Phobos captain can usually be used to buff some other shooting. It's worth noting that this list actually has 5 characters in it now when we move on to the Judiciar. So we have 2 ways to fight last. And you know what? I'm not sold on needing 2 ways to fight last. We went over this in one of the other lists today as well. I think you just need 1 way to fight last. Either the Whirlwind or the Judiciar. I really don't think you need 2. It's a big points investment to have 210 points. Yeah, so it's in this case, this is actually making you have 5 characters as well, which is making Assassinate open up as a good pick for the enemy. So I'd probably try and repurpose this Judiciar, in my opinion. Or maybe repurpose the Phobos Captain, I guess. You could do that as well. I think the Phobos Captain's role here maybe is to hang out with both Redemptors. One Redemptor has the Onslaught, has the Heavy Onslaught and the Onslaught, and the other one has the Heavy Flamer and the Macroplasma. I think you want to have Macroplasmas on both Redemptors. The Calixtus does have a aura that can make everyone fight last. Yeah, actually, you're right. There's 3 fight lasts in this list, so you definitely don't need 2 CP for a 3-inch fight last aura. That's 100% right, Steel Rain. You don't need 3. I would repurpose these 85 points for sure. We also have Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws, but no jump packs here, so 135 points. We have Hellblasters, which we talked about before, Hellblasters are kind of average. In some ways, this is the idea I had, where it was going to be a captain in Phobos armor or a chapter master or someone with a couple of Redemptors and Hellblasters around. I don't like the Heavy Onslaught cannon on the Redemptor, and I have 2 of my 3 Redemptors magnetized, so I could run Heavy Onslaught cannons, but I never do. And the reason that I never do is, I think that, let me just look at the profile for a second, right? Heavy Onslaught cannon, Heavy 12, 6 -1/1 damage. It's basically a twin assault cannon. And then your Plasma, Heavy D6, potentially 9 -4, 3 damage. Now, the reason I don't like the Heavy Onslaught cannon is if you end up shooting against a Horde-based army, then the Macroplasma you can shoot on low power, no risk to yourself for 2 damage, and it's -4, which means a Horde-based army is definitely getting no save against it, and you're guaranteed to 6 shots. So you're going to get 6 shots where there's almost guaranteed no save against 12 shots where potentially they get a save. So what are you really losing against the Horde army? You're maybe not killing 1 or 2 models, right? Maybe on an insane roll, you're killing 3 or 4 less models, but you're giving the enemy potentially a chance to save, etc., etc. But then you also have the versatility that if, hey, the enemy left a character out in the open, well, I'm just going to shoot him with a high power, heavy D6, strength 9, -4, 3 damage, and just vaporize a character. So I think that it's a better choice just to always take the Macroplasmas. I like the Onslaught cannons more than the Heavy Flamers. Quite often you never get to fire the Heavy Flamers because of range issues. So Macroplasma and Onslaught Cannon on Redemptors is where I'm at. This list looks like it would need 5 extra points to do that, but I think you drop the Judiciar here. And I think you'd probably afford to, when you drop the Judiciar, make both Sangri Guard 1 model bigger. And yeah, I know that makes them susceptible to blast, so maybe you could go 7 and a 5 if you prefer. But 5 Sangri Guard don't really get the job done, in my opinion. Sangri Guard work best in squads of 7 to 9. I run a 7. I used to run an 8 before Chapter approved. I wish I could still run an 8. I think hanging on to that 8 was part of the reason that I kept losing games, because I was so reluctant to drop that 8 Sangri Guard. Switch Librarian to Primaris Chaplain on the bike. Switch Librarian to Primaris Chaplain on the bike. I guess the null zone sort of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense without Psychic Mastery. I ran it with Psychic Mastery last week, guys, right? And I mean, most of you guys in the chat watched the game. I maybe cast 6 Psychic Powers last week, Psychic Fortress and Null Zone, and Might of Heroes, and maybe had 3 successes out of 6 with Psychic Mastery. So without Psychic Mastery, I think that this Librarian is super unreliable. I mean, you can be unreliable with Psychic Mastery as well. And the amount of times I've not killed whatever I've charged with 7 Sangri Guard is basically none. Yeah, so 7 Sangri Guard is a minimum. So 5s is not. Yeah, I think I would drop the GDCR, grab a couple extra Sangri Guard, use those extra 25 points to maybe get the plasma cannons on both dreadnoughts and the onslaught cannons on both dreadnoughts, and maybe even throw the rocket pods on the dreadnoughts, because for 5 points I think they're kind of fine. I like them. They average 2 strength 7 -1 2 damage shots. They're probably just for 5 points it just equates an extra dead marine if you're shooting at marines, for example. And then dropping the Judicar gets you away from that 5 characters, which makes picking Assassinate against you a little bit more risky for the enemy. The Hellblasters with the Captain and the Redemptors kind of make sense, because you can't really fire the Hellblasters reliably without the rerolling ones, so you need that second Captain to chill out and hang with them. We've got 2 units arguably that can do actions, so let's go ahead and score. Yeah, you'll probably want to deep strike the assassin, I imagine, and bring him in 18 inches away from your librarian. Otherwise, you're not reliably casting anything. Maybe you want to deep strike the assassin and bring him in within 18 inches of the enemy's librarian, just to make things difficult for them. Or chat is saying that you could drop the librarian and just bring a chaplain. You could very much bring the Primaris chaplain on the bike, give him Mantra of Strength or something. How many CPs this list got? 8. Yeah, so you could upgrade him with Relic, the 3 damage Relic or something, and then he's got a 4 damage weapon. I think that would be quite nice. Okay, let's have a talk about scoring. Right, we have 1 troop choice, is that right? We've got the Incursors, and that's it. So we're really on like a 6.5 for OBSEC. There was no relic or anything that gave OBSEC, was there? I don't think there was. No. Anti-Horde vehicle. So we've got 2 Redemptors and we've got Hellblasters that could definitely do some anti-Horde work with their 15 shots. We've got a Whirlwind that could do anti-Horde. We've got Inceptors that could do a little bit of anti-Horde. Attack Bite could do a tiny little bit. 10 Sangri Guard. Anti-Horde in terms of shooting is actually not bad at all in this list. I think it's like an 8. Let's have a look at 3 damage weapons. We've got 1, 2, 3, and then I think the Captain and Phobos Armor's gun is 3 damage, isn't it? I think what I was doing was upgrading him and making it 4 damage. Captain and Phobos Armor. Captain and Phobos Armor, his gun is 3 damage. Okay, so I've lost count though. What was it? 1, 2, 3. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Both Redemptors give you like 8, and then I think that's it. Well, actually, it's 7 because one of his Redemptors currently has a heavy onslaught cannon on it. So you've got 7 3 damage or above weapons. Abhor the Witch is good. You can turn off the Calixtus Assassin's aura. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can if there was an action you could perform that would turn it off. Yeah. That's a potential thing you could do. But anyway, 7 3 damage weapons, 10 Sangri Guard, but 2 squads of 5, which I've mentioned I don't like. The Captain with a Thunderhammer is pretty nice. The Invader ATV's Meltagun is nice. The Redemptors are pretty nice at anti-vehicle if they both had macroplasmas. And in this situation where they don't, I think this is like an 8. mobility-wise then, we've got Vanguard Veterans on foot, we've got Hellblasters on foot, we've got both Redemptors, we've got the Captain in Phobos armor on foot, and I guess our Incursors with our Guerrilla Tactics. I think it's like a 7.5, and Specialization, right? We've got 3 ways to fight last, so I guess we get something for that. We also have a couple of denies. We only have 1 unit, or maybe 2 if you include the Inceptors, units for actions, and we're low on 3 damage weapons, and we've got too many characters, so maybe like an 8 for Specialization. I think this list possibly just needs a little tweak to be a few points better, though, right? Lose the Judiciar, get more Sangri Guard. I get the chat's talking a lot about Librarian and the Calexis, but I guess you can probably make that work if you are very strategic with your Deep Strike of the Calexis. And I think improve the weapon options on these Redemptors, because if you added 2 more Sangri Guard and you drop the Judiciar, you've got 21 points left. 21 points left gets you another Onslaught Cannon and 2 Rocket Pods, leaving you 6 points left. I don't know what you do with those last 6 points. Maybe you... I was going to say, what can you do with those last 6 points? Something, surely. You could take 1 Infernal Pistol on the Sangri Guard, or you could drop that Storm Shield I mentioned, change that out for an Infernal Pistol. That saves you 5 points, so that gives you 11 points less. Drop the Lightning Claw here on this Vanguard Veteran Sergeant, replace it with a Thunderhammer. And then you come in at 1998 points, and you've got another 3 damage weapon. Well, times 2, because you've got a 3 damage weapon here on this Vanguard Vet Sergeant, you've got a 3 damage weapon on this Macro Plasma, you've got a couple more Rocket Pods, you still have 2 ways to make the enemy fight last, and, I mean, with Veil of Time, you've got a way to make you fight first as well, so, yeah, maybe a small tweak here, you can get this up to 40 very, very easily, something like that. Okay. Primaris Chaplain can take Relic of Galthmore too, if this list is wanting to go anti-Psyker, but maybe he does just want to do banners with Assassin, freeing Librarian to cast. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I like the thought of using the Calixtus as Assassin. I guess it gives you actually something that's quite reliable at holding objectives as well, right? Because the enemy can only hit them on those rolls of 6s. So, and it's got a 4+ invulnerable save, so like it will generally survive reasonably well, I think. And it'll make it very difficult for enemy psychers to perform effectively. So it's not a bad list. I think it just needs a few little tweaks here and there. And I wonder actually if you did just add 2 Sangri Guard and then added jump packs here, because jump packs are 3 points per model? If you added 2 Sangri Guard, the jump packs and the macro plasma, that might be an option as well. I suppose the Calixtus is vulnerable to Catan powers. Yeah, I mean, what isn't vulnerable to Catan powers, though, I guess, is the question. Like, there is no counter to them as far as I'm aware, right? You just... Soul Warden, I guess, is our best counter to Catan. I was running a list where I had a Tech Marine with Soul Warden, and he was trying to hang out against near like a couple of Redemptors and some other stuff, and like I generally did like the Soul Warden trait on the Primaris Tech Marine. Like I thought it was good, but it was a big points investment, and I just, if I had more time before the tournament, I would have maybe tried to make it work again, but like I just didn't gel quite with that list. It just wasn't working for me. So Catan always screws me in my game as against Necrons. Yeah, I mean, Catan in general can be difficult. I guess a Whirlwind is very good against Catan units. Not the powers, but like the actual units, I find. Yeah, that's true. Something like Incursors can actually deal with a Calixtus Assassin, right? Because Incursors' ballistic skill cannot be modified with their guns, so they would still hit them on a 3, for example. But yeah, the relic that increases aura, so you could have a 9-inch Soul Warden. It's a big investment though, right? Just but like I suppose as Thousand Suns come out now and they're able to do like tons of mortal wounds. I think someone was saying in chat that they're playing against Thousand Suns that had 19 a list that had 19 psychers. I don't know how the hell I'm going to deal with that when I get to it, honestly, guys. Maybe my whole list is going to change again. But thank you for being here today. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. Thank you to the people that submitted the lists this week. Obviously, there wouldn't be a show without lists. So thanks for that. And let's see who's up next week. Next week, we've got Kerry Scott, James Gibb, Big U, and Herp Derp. So, we'll be back next week for 4 more lists. Usually it's 2 lists from members and 2 lists from non-members. Only Sellers was quite far back in the queue as a non-member, and he became a member this week, so he got bumped up the queue. So it was 3 members list this week, but he was non-member up until like last week. And if anyone wants to join us in Discord or Facebook, there is links in the video descriptions, so it's always appreciated if you come over and join us there. And or once again, thank you to everyone that has actually joined or supported the channel via the join button under the video or the Patreon links. That's also very much appreciated. Back tomorrow night for a game against Orcs. Probably going to be live, not live, probably going to have a video on the 2nd episode of, Angels of Death, the new Warhammer Plus TV show that is, I think, 1 episode every week for the next 10 weeks. I enjoyed this week's episode. Maybe on the next live stream we can chat about the episode if people like to chat about episode 2. I'll probably try and put a video up on Wednesday night. I think the new episode is out on Wednesdays. And then on Friday this week, we have the final video of the tier list series. So that is Forge World units, super heavy tanks, Forge World flyers, stuff like the Stormbird, etc. So that will finish the tier list series this week. And then I'll post a link to all the tier list, whatever they're called. So you'll be able to look at these tier lists, because I've got them all here, right? I just need to post. I want to do the last one so we can post up links, and then you guys can have access to all these tier lists. For some reason, the D stuff always falls out. I don't know if there's a bug with what I've done or something, but so I'll get all these tier lists finalized. I will save them all out so you guys can get access to them, to use them hopefully when you're building your next lists. And hopefully we'll catch some of you guys tomorrow night. I'll post up Brett's orc list tonight as well into Discord. So if anyone that's already played orcs or anyone that's got any tips that I need to look out for, I do typically beat Brett, but it is all new stuff, and I'm not 100% familiar with orcs at all. So if anyone wants to give us some tips, then that'd be very much appreciated. So I hope you guys all have a great Sunday. Appreciate you being here. I will see you hopefully pretty soon. By the blood are we made strong, brothers. Peace.